Hello, I am Jason Kufuro George. I play keys alongside ShofarBand. This is the keyboard tutorial for Jesus Blood, which is a song off of our studio release, Behold. The whole purpose of this tutorial is to illustrate how the song can be performed using MainStage or any kind of equivalent DAW, digital audio workstation. The song is in the key of G, and it is at a tempo of 78 beats per minute. The nature of the song is very much different to the rest of the other songs because I am not aware of any significant pad use in this song. You can perhaps add a little bit of pad just for the sake of your own senses, but I shall be illustrating it without pad, which makes this the only tutorial that will be done without any of the stock MainStage libraries, except for the use of the compressor on the EP that I use. The EP that I use for the song is one from the company Spitfire entitled Labs. It is a direct, very good, and very well developed plugin. I would recommend everyone on the face of the earth should own it, and all Spitfire products, all $12,000 of them, Faith Goals 2025. But anyways, so now we can break the song up into its relevant sections, starting with the introduction, which goes something like this. A very interesting thing to note about the intro of this song is the use of the sustain pedal. The sustain pedal is not necessarily a direct feature of the song. I just use it to help. In music terms, there's a concept called legato, where it basically deals with how each note does not sound like this, but instead it sounds like this, implying that the rests between each note, between the vocalization of each note, are smaller and smaller and smaller. In fact, it's supposed to sound as if it's mellifluous, as if it's flowing like a river, as if it's one note just expressed differently. So I try to imitate that, especially when you're playing the same melody in octave space. I try to imitate that by using my sustain pedal to carry each of the notes to a long enough position until I am satisfied. This can be very difficult if you are standing. I understand that pain while standing is a very difficult thing to get by. You can work around it entirely. You can just play. But then you need to arrange with the rest of your band to keep the C, the B, and the C going, if you're going to devote both of your hands to playing the part. But try your best to play with both hands or in the octave space. I played it like this for the sake of chording in my left hand, but it's completely not compulsory. Otherwise it would have sounded like, rather than, which obviously the latter of which is most desirable. Okay, now we move on to the verses. The verses as well as the choruses actually are very simple. You just follow the chords, try to make your chords as clean as possible. Don't have it interfere too much with the soft, delicate vocal. It goes something like this. If it does sound a little bit empty for you, you could add a pad just to build it up just a little bit. I personally use RetroSynth. I think I mentioned this across basically all the videos, but just in case this is the first one you're watching, I use RetroSynth. But I EQ it in a specific way that a lot of the higher frequency components that make synths generally loud and in your face are not present, and makes a very delicious soft pad. I also compress that synth. I add a bit of delay for dimension, and then in the end, my soft synth sounds like this. However, if you're going to add a pad, one great and important thing to note about adding it to the song is that it must be soft. It cannot add too much color. So I generally put it at about, let's say, 20 to 15% of the volume of the electric piano from Labs, so that it sounds like this during the choruses and the bridge, and during the choruses and the verses. A little bit softer than that, in fact, is a better idea. Doesn't that electric piano sound beautiful? Well, at this point, I'd just like to further mention and put emphasis on the fact that the entire Lab suite is free. Make use of this. This may just change your life, musically at least. So from the verses as we illustrated them, from the first verse actually, as we illustrated it earlier on, we go into the chorus, which sounds like this. There is a break at the end of the first verse. That is also up to your band whether or not you want to implement that. It requires a bit of coordination with the stopping of your pad, etc., etc., etc. So just work out the logistics in community with the rest of your worship team. After that chorus, it goes into another verse, which is the same as what we alluded to earlier. It goes from that third verse, I believe, yes, that third verse, into a second chorus, which we just a few seconds ago illustrated. And then coming out of there, we go into the same chords as the intro, going into the bridge, while the guitar solo operates in the musical interlude section. I'm going to now play through from the beginning of the musical interlude until the end of the bridge. Okay, that sounds something like this. I may try to talk through it, so keep your attention upon this video. Makes a sinner clean. 1, 2, 3, 4. Guitar solo. The greatest gift. Our death exchanged, death overcome. The Lamb of God has ransomed us. We are yours. We are yours. Bridge again. The greatest gift, our salvation. The Lamb of God has ransomed us. We are yours. We are yours. Then it goes into the musical outro, Jesus' blood. The musical outro, of course, starts with the chorus according to the recording. And costly. And price of my redemption. Makes the sinner clean. And as you have seen, it's a very reasonably laid back song to perform. All that is critical are the usage of your free Labs plugins. Perhaps if you really want to, the pad. I personally don't really use the pad much, just to create that contrast between songs that do use the pad and don't use the pad, personally. And from there, you just follow the song structure, follow how the Spirit is moving across the room, and that is Jesus' Blood. This has been the tutorial for Jesus' Blood. I trust that it has been very informative and helpful for you, and I hope that you have brilliant execution in your local congregational context.